100 subscribers. They're more than that by now, I guess. It took me a bit to figure out what I would cover for this milestone. And maybe it's silly to celebrate a mere 100 subs when you look at the numbers successful channels have. But I seriously had zero expectations when I first started this channel. I genuinely thought that I'd make maybe 3 or 4 videos only ever watched by a handful of friends and family, who were probably watching out of pity. Then the views kept ticking up, and soon my subscriber count started doing the same. I'm still not sure what I'm doing right, but fuck it! I'm gonna enjoy the ride while I can!
Witness me, bloody!
So why did I pick Knights of the Old Republic for this video? After all, I prefer to use my channel to spotlight games that I either think need more love, or ones I've never played before. KOTOR doesn't exactly meet either of those criteria. Everyone and their mom knows Star Wars, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who likes RPGs who isn't at least familiar with Knights of the Old Republic. Not to mention that I've beaten the game several times over the years now, and I'm not the kind of person that usually finishes a game more than once. Well, the reason I picked this is precisely because of that. What better moment than a milestone video like this to offer some insight into exactly why I'm the video game obsessed weirdo that I am. I was a little kid when The Phantom Menace came out, and that put me squarely in the prime demographic for the prequels. I had only been introduced to Star Wars maybe a month or two beforehand, but believe it or not, this movie, the one everyone mocks, was the film that sealed the deal on making me a Star Wars fan. The pod racing, the over-the-top lightsaber battles, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, I even loved the Gungans. Seriously, I could write an entire thesis on why they're wasted characters with a visually stunning civilization who could easily be salvaged for future works simply with a retcon to their speech patterns.
Hey, you sir! Stop it there!
I begged for every scrap of Star Wars merch I could find afterwards, but what I gravitated to the most were the video games. In fact, let's look at just how many Star Wars games I played before Knights of the Old Republic. Shadows of the Empire. The only vivid memory I have of this game is the opening snowspeeder sequence on Hoth. I do plan on covering this game sometime in the future. Masters of Tiras Kasi. Janky as hell Tekken clone that I still have a soft spot for. X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter. Oh yeah, that's the good shit right there. Finally able to fly around in all my favorite ships. It's just too bad that my little child brain couldn't comprehend how to play a space sim at the time. Rogue Squadron. Oh! Sorry about that. I just got a massive nostalgia boner. The simplified controls and arcadey gameplay was far easier for me to get into as a child compared to X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, making Factor 5 one of my favorite developers for years to come. X-Wing Alliance. I know I played this, but I'll be damned if I can remember anything about it. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Hilariously awful action-adventure game that follows the events of the movie with a camera straight from hell itself. My brother and I still quote the awkward, "Stop pushing me," line some NPCs would spout.
Stop pushing me! Stop pushing me! Stop pushing me! Ah!
Episode 1 Racer. Everything you could ever ask for in a pod racing game. Well, besides the fact that the racers respawn when they crash. Episode 1 Jedi Power Battles. Honestly underrated beat 'em up that let me play as my favorite Jedi Master, Plo Koon. Played this to death as a kid. Force Commander. I don't remember much aside from absolutely hating it. Demolition. An alright Twisted Metal clone that didn't really do anything to make it stand out from the other vehicle combat games of the time. Episode 1 Battle for Naboo. A reskin of Rogue Squadron with a much shorter campaign, but still fun and worth playing for the fun of flying an N1 Starfighter. Starfighter. A disappointment compared to Battle for Naboo, but I was a kid who wanted more Rogue Squadron style gameplay, so I may not have given it a fair shake at the time. Super Bombad Racing. Star Wars Mario Kart sure sounds perfect on paper. In execution, not so much. Galactic Battlegrounds. Do you like Age of Empires 2? Would you like to play Age of Empires 2 with Star Wars characters? This is the game for you. Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader. Factor 5's magnum opus. Everything that worked in the first game cranked up to 11. Obi-Wan. The first time I experienced the pain of hype. Nothing about this game works right or feels right. It is a frustrating slog from beginning to end.
Kenobi!
Bounty Hunter. Aw yeah, bringing it back to the fun games. Best third-person shooter about a mysterious bounty hunter until Oddworld Stranger's Wrath. Attack of the Clones. Fuck this game. Just fuck this game. One of the absolute worst GBA titles I own. The Clone Wars. Not that Clone Wars, or that Clone Wars. This one is a bizarre game where you play as Anakin and Mace Windu, but spend 90% of the game in tanks and other combat vehicles rather than doing Jedi stuff. Racer Revenge. I'm on the side of the people who prefer this one to the first Racer title. They're both fantastic, don't get me wrong. But to me, the darker tone of Racer Revenge and the fact that you can knock other competitors out of the race entirely provides a much closer feel to how pod racing was portrayed in The Phantom Menace. Jedi Starfighter. I didn't like Starfighter, and I liked Jedi Starfighter even less. Again though, that may have been me being a stupid child who thought these games were a threat to his precious Rogue Squadron. Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast. One I can absolutely say I didn't give its due when I first played it. Once I got more into FPS games, however, I went back and realized just how enormous of a gem I'd initially missed out on.
Standing shooting star!
So let's see, that's 22 games released over the course of 6 years.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I didn't even mention the ones that came out the same year as KOTOR, like Galaxies, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, or Rogue Squadron 3. There are also all the Star Wars edutainment games I played, like Yoda's Challenge Activity Center, Anakin Speedway, Jar Jar's Journey. What? What are you looking at me like that for? I was 4 when The Phantom Menace came out. Of course I played edutainment games. This would be why older fans like me gripe all the time about the lack of Star Wars games since Disney got the license. It always felt like one worth playing would be coming around that corner any second. Now we're lucky if we get 1 or 2 games worth playing every 5 years or so, to say nothing of what's become of the Battlefront name.
Look how they massacred my boy.
But enough bitter assholes make their money griping about how Star Wars was so much better when they were kids, and I'm not here to add to that shit. I fell into that for a time, but then I remembered how shitty people used to make me feel for liking the prequels.
Please, you weren't even born when the original trilogy came out.
You have no idea how hard it was for us fans before the internet.
So I decided I'm not going to do the same thing to current fans. Instead, let's talk about something I think we can all agree on. BioWare was on fucking fire at this point in time. Hot off the heels of Baldur's Gate 2 and Neverwinter Nights, BioWare had swiftly risen to become one of the premier RPG developers on PC. The hype surrounding Knights of the Old Republic was massive. A top-tier developer handed the keys to their own Star Wars story when the franchise had once again become a license to print money. It was the moment BioWare took their step out onto the grand stage of console gaming and would lay the groundwork for Mass Effect. And I didn't have the slightest inkling about any of this when I was a kid. You want to know the sole reason I wanted Knights of the Old Republic back then? It was the first game where I could play as a Jedi wielding a double-bladed lightsaber. I was a basic child who thought Darth Maul was just the coolest. Getting the chance to play as the good guy while fighting like Maul was the single coolest thing I could have imagined. Because you know what's better than Obi-Wan Kenobi? Obi-2 Kenobi. To top it off, I had next to no experience with RPGs. The most I'd played up to that point were games like Paper Mario, Pokemon, and hack-and-slash RPGs. Mostly Dungeon Siege. So yes, all it took for my child self to want a game in a genre he was barely familiar with was for it to have double-bladed lightsabers. I mean, it was a Star Wars game, so I probably would have gotten it at some point, but the double-bladed lightsabers made it a day one purchase. Considering my lack of RPG know-how at the time, you can imagine how baffled I was when I got into my first combat encounter and was presented with this strange sort of real-time combat that let me pause the game and issue orders. It was mind-boggling watching my characters take turns with the enemies no matter how much I tried to button mash. I mean, come on! This is a Star Wars game. I should be shooting blasters and swinging lightsabers with reckless abandon, not politely waiting around while my foes take turns hitting me back. And why do I keep missing? They're right there! How can you miss an enemy at point blank? Wait, never mind. I've seen footage of how I play FPS games. Complaint withdrawn. For those unaware, Knights of the Old Republic runs on a D20 rule set, which means that underneath the hood, this is a D&D game in a Star Wars skin. I didn't understand this fact at all as a kid, and it frustrated me endlessly. Try as I might, I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong, or why I was leveling up so slowly. Funny thing is that this wasn't the first time that I ran into this problem. I had actually briefly attempted to play Neverwinter Nights the year before under the assumption that it was in the same vein as Dungeon Siege. You'd think I would have connected the dots seeing as how both games were made by the same company, but no! Because I was an extremely impatient child suffering from ADD that wouldn't be properly diagnosed until my late 20s, I never bothered to look at the logos before the start screen. I think it was like 2008 when I finally realized that BioWare made both Neverwinter Nights and Knights of the Old Republic. I've said it before, and I'll be saying it the rest of my life. I was a very dumb child. My struggles continued until I finally gave up entirely on the Xbox version. Why the Xbox version specifically? Well, because I was terrible at games in general at the time, I was reliant on cheating to get through most games I played. GameShark, Action Replay, Codebreaker. You name it, I've got at least one on some console or another. This made Xbox games a gigantic hassle because there was no easy way to cheat. The closest way I had to cheat on the Xbox was a disc that had a bunch of different saves on it. It doesn't help me get any further in Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb when the next level is even harder than the last one, though. And that game isn't even all that difficult. What the hell was wrong with me back then? Back on topic, the PC version was released about 4 months after the Xbox version, and it was much easier to find cheats for. Mostly because developers back then were often kind enough to leave the debug tools in place for PC players. While I waited for the PC version to release, I spent plenty of time watching my older brother plow through the Xbox version and found myself engrossed in the story, not to mention the oodles and oodles of side quests. It wasn't the first time I'd just sat there and watched him play a game, but this is one of the strongest memories I have of that time. Just me and him sitting there, pigging out on Utz cheese puffs while trying to figure out the correct solution to the murder mystery side quest on Dantooine. No joke, every time I think of Knights of the Old Republic, I can still taste those cheese puffs. I believe this is where I developed a stubborn streak about finding any way to enjoy a game. All that time watching my big brother play through KOTOR made me want to love it. I enjoyed every other part of the game. The plot, the characters, the Star Wars of it all. I was just so bad at the gameplay that I could never get anywhere. Until, at last, the PC version was in my hands. Now, armed with the power of cheating like a bastard, I could enjoy Knights of the Old Republic like I always wanted to. But can you truly enjoy a victory that you didn't earn fair and square, I hear you ask? If I may offer a simple rebuttal from the great scholar Eddie Guerrero. And I quote, "If you're not cheating, you're not trying."
Can you feel the heat? Say hello to Eddie. Hi, Eddie!
I spent practically every moment of free time for weeks doing nothing but playing Knights of the Old Republic. The insurmountable wall of difficulty was gone, and I had a new favorite game. A game that I should get around to properly discussing rather than continue this walk down memory lane. One last thing before we start.
Oh, come on!
You may notice differences in the size of the HUD throughout this video. That would be because I screwed up somewhere along the way in getting the widescreen fixes to work on the sole playthrough I intended to use for this video. It was such a nightmare trying to get everything to play right that I was just happy to have it functioning at all. However, after finishing the vanilla game though, I kind of felt like trying out the restored content mod to see what all was different, and that required a fresh install. I don't know what I did this time around that changed it. I followed the exact same order of operations, but for some reason, this time, I didn't have to use a HUD for ants. Another useful bit of going back and recording extra footage, actually remembering to have OBS capture the damned cursor this time. 16 separate recordings and I didn't notice that little problem. Why do people watch me again? So, while we will be following the adventures of Quitch Jast for the majority of this video, on occasion we'll flip over to my girl Visper Skennis when needed. I love Star Wars names so much. Okay, enough explanations. On to explaining Knights of the Old Republic. Set 4,000 years before the events of the Star Wars films. Look, I don't know why technology barely changed across the galaxy in 4,000 years either, just go with it. Knights of the Old Republic centers around you, a soldier, scout, or scoundrel who is woken up aboard the Republic battleship the Endar Spire, just as it comes under attack from Sith forces. In this era, Sith refers to both the top-shelf dark-side Force sensitives and the Sith Empire. So when I say things like the Sith Troopers, or the Sith Officers, or the Sith Army, or the Sith Navy, I'm talking about the normies with no Force abilities. As you stumble out of bed, you barely know what's going on due to possible brain damage, but more likely because you're just not a morning person. All you can do is follow this guy here, Trask Olgo, to the bridge as you try to rescue the Jedi Bastila before it's too late. Possessing a technique known as battle meditation, which is basically the Force equivalent of playing Sabaton at full blast mid-battle, Bastila is absolutely critical to the Republic war effort against the Sith, who seem to have endless reserves of ships, droids, and material. However, there's no Bastila to be found at the bridge once you make it there. Oh well, we tried. Let's head to the escape pods already, Trask.
Something behind here. Damn, another Dark Jedi! I'll try to hold him off. You get to the escape pods. Go!
No! Trask! You were such a distinct and well-developed character! Curse you, Sith apprentice whose name I always forget! The good news is that you get a shiny new partner as a replacement, Carth Onasi.
Bastila's escape pod's already gone, so there's no reason for us to stick around here and get shot by the Sith. Now, come on. There'll be time for questions later.
Wait a minute. That's Jiminy Cricket from Once Upon a Time! Or, you know, Caden from Mass Effect. Raphael Sparge, a voice actor so nice, BioWare used him twice. Fleeing the Endar Spire on the last escape pod, you're knocked out upon landing on the planet of Taris, a world under occupation by the Sith. Carth, being the certified good boy he is, saves you and patches you up in an out-of-the-way apartment that will serve as your base of operations for the time being.
You don't have to thank me. I've never abandoned anyone on a mission, and I'm not about to start now. Besides, I'm gonna need your help.
Carth confirms that Bastila was able to make it off the ship in time, and somebody has to find her before the Sith do. Isolated on a hostile planet with zero clue as to how you go about finding a missing Jedi? It's time to hope that the Force is on your side. And so begins Knights of the Old Republic. From here on out, the structure should feel familiar to any fan of BioWare's later work. As you wander about Taris searching for leads on Bastila's location, you'll come across all sorts of side quests with both good and evil ways to finish them, while you steadily build up your party. Much like Mass Effect though, you can only have 2 active companions with you at any given time. I'd say I'm getting flashbacks to Lands of Lore from playing this, but really I was getting KOTOR flashbacks while playing Lands of Lore. This was also the introduction of BioWare's famous/infamous morality meter. Depending on how light side or dark side you play your character, this meter will go up or down. Aside from affecting the background in your character's pose, the more you go down one path, the fewer force points the corresponding powers will cost. That's not too important on Taris, but it won't be much longer until you unlock those sweet, sweet Jedi powers.
And the spoiler continues to punish his hapless opponent.
Oh, don't give me that. That's not even a spoiler. They advertise the game as letting you play as a Jedi. I didn't even mention the real twist that... Whoa! Almost got me to slip up there, you crafty bastards. You'll have to wait until later for me to talk about how Haley Joel Osment is really Kaiser Soze. As for the morality meter, I think the concept works perfectly for Star Wars. This is a series that runs on clear-cut good versus evil. Especially when it comes to Force sensitives, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room. You're either a really nice person, or someone who frequently gives roundhouse kicks to puppies. It's no surprise BioWare kept using it after Knights of the Old Republic, though to more mixed results. The idea of a game that kept track of your choices felt like a revelation at the time. Okay, sure, now I know that BioWare's previous games had done similar, but I and a lot of ignorant kids like me had never encountered a concept like this before. Games occasionally had good or evil endings, but they never had a constant stream of choices that reflected on your character's alignment. Well, except for Black and White. But if I wanted to talk about massive disappointments, I'd still be talking about myself. In Knights of the Old Republic, you could be as good or evil as you wanted. At last, I could let out my inner maniacal self.
You've given me 100 credits? Just like that? I don't know what to say. Thank you. Thank you.
What, you've never heard of someone being maniacally good? Besides, I feel like shit when I play as an evil character. Except for when I play as a dark side smuggler in the Old Republic. It's just so damn funny rebelling against a plot that clearly wants me to play as a Han Clono.
You planning to eat and drink yourself to death, fat man?
It's not all light side, dark side choices, though. Sometimes you have no other option but to fight. Combat is very streamlined compared to similar RPGs of the era. A fact which makes it much more embarrassing in hindsight that I had to cheat in order to beat this. What we have here is the now classic real-time with pause that younger players will likely associate more with Dragon Age. Both an evolution and a simplification of what they did with Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, combat in Knights of the Old Republic is actually a turn-based game in the guise of a real-time one. Every character has their own round to attack, and a hidden initiative roll to decide who attacks in what order. you can switch between your party members on the fly to queue up actions in advance, then resume the action to see how it all plays out. In addition to your basic attack, you can gain access to power attacks, rapid attacks, and critical strikes, which all come in both melee and ranged flavors. Then you have the wide assortment of force powers to choose from, Stasis Field and Master Speed being my personal favorites. Area Stun plus 2 extra attacks per round equals a DPS juggernaut. There are also a host of items you can use, from the usual healing and buffing items to more grenades than you'll know what to do with. Not the most thrilling system out there, but it does the job fine. Technically, there is a stealth feature too, but the maps are mainly tight corridors, negating most of the point of stealth besides getting a single sneak attack in. Thing is, this is a D20 system, so you can just as easily get sneak attacks by having your scoundrel attack enemies from behind or when they're stunned, without the need for stealth. I'm sure there are players who can find plenty of uses for it, but not me. The biggest pain in the ass is the party AI's brain-dead moments and its terrible pathfinding. It isn't always bad. You can usually trust the AI to hold its own in standard combat encounters without a lot of micromanagement, but more than once I tried to head to the next area only to realize that one of my party members just kinda stopped following me and is all the way back on the other side of the map for no reason. Using Stasis Field on a group of enemies right at the start of combat seems to mess up the party AI as well, causing them to just stand there while you attack all by your lonesome until you manually order them to join in. On the other side of the coin, once they do get aggroed, party members will keep attacking until every enemy is dead, even if the mob they're racing towards hasn't even noticed you yet. Okay, we're almost to... Where the fuck is Carth? Damn it, Onasi! You're lucky I like you! Then, of course, we have the role-playing aspects of this role-playing game. You're given a choice of 3 classes at the start. First is Soldier, KOTOR's equivalent to the Fighter. Versatile in combat, but not very helpful outside of it. Then we have the Scout. Seated somewhere between a Bard and a Ranger, Scout is the jack-of-all-trades class. Not quite as combat-focused as the Soldier, but not as skilled or as squishy as the final class, the Scoundrel. The Scoundrel is a rogue to the core. I'm not very good with classes like this, so I've usually avoided picking this one. Seeing as how I've played Knights of the Old Republic forwards, backwards, and sideways with the other 2 classes, though, let's give it a try. And you know, I always picked a male character before, so let's go with a female one this time. Oh darn, in my Van Halen-induced haze, I picked male Scoundrel by mistake and started the game. No turning back now! Once you get your official Jedi license, you'll be given a choice between 3 more classes that follow a similar structure to the normie classes. The Guardian, which is focused on lightsaber combat at the expense of Force abilities. Think Anakin in the prequels. The Sentinel, which has a very utilitarian mindset of being ready for any situation. And finally, the Consular, an expert in all things Force-powered. Yoda without all the flippy stunts, basically. Keep in mind that this runs on D&D logic, so that means the level cap is 20 and you'll be multi-classing. So, try to restrain yourself from using every level up you get on Taris. No worries about your party members, though. You won't have to worry about training new Force sensitives until Knights of the Old Republic 2. Hoo boy, is that one gonna have a lot to unpack when I get to it. To stubbornly prove a point, though, I didn't take my own advice and got all the way up to 8th level as a Scoundrel. Bright side is that I became an absolute murder machine once I could consistently stun enemies. Afterwards, I only had to hope that I didn't forget about anything that happens in the late game to put a squishy Scoundrel Consular build which relies on stunning enemies at a serious disadvantage. Nope, can't think of anything. This is all well and good now, but it wouldn't be a video game from the 2000s without a few awkward shifts in gameplay. From disappointing turret sections to deceptively tricky swoop bike races that I really wish there were more of, to the devil's favorite card game, Pazak, Knights of the Old Republic has something to frustrate everyone. There isn't much to say about the turret sections. You'll always face the same number of Sith fighters as you sit there and wait for them to come back around for another approach. I'm not sure if I would say that this bit is better or worse depending on your preferred control method. There's no aim assist for controller users, so good luck dealing with the precision the game expects from you at times. However, mouse and keyboard makes this an absolute joke. The only thing that could possibly trip you up is how pathetically slow the turret turns with the mouse. The swoop races are the only gameplay deviation I enjoy. Think an endless runner at Mach 5 and you get the gist of it. Your goal is to get the fastest time possible while hitting every boost pad you can and still avoiding all the hazards on the track. You can actually find remnants hinting at a much more in-depth concept that had been planned during development, but said shopkeep doesn't sell any such upgrades in his store. As an aside, why have we dropped the idea of racing games set in the Star Wars universe? You've got Formula 1 with pod racing and drag racing with swoops. Why not explore this angle a bit more? How about it, Disney? While you're at it, maybe revive that Pirates of the Caribbean game you canceled? I'm still trying to find my heart after you ripped it out when you did that. Then we have Pazaak. Ugh, Pazaak. Blackjack from hell is more like it. Rather than get as close to 21 as possible without going over, the number to shoot for is 20, but the principle is the same. Beyond that, you have these 4 cards ranging from 1 to 6, either positive or negative, drawn from a deck you assemble before the game. Best 3 out of 5 wins the pot. On the surface, it seems fine enough. However, the computer still feels the need to cheat like a bastard on top of it all. Early on, it's a total crapshoot as to whether you can win a single round because your starter deck doesn't contain even 1 negative card. So if you go over, you immediately bust with no chance to salvage the round. The AI opponents have no such issue and, in fact, seem to have impossible amounts of luck when it comes to having the exact card they need to hit 20. This obscene imbalance continues until you collect a fair amount of these hybrid cards that can be used to add or subtract. Then it just becomes a normal pain in the ass. And yet here I am, playing another round.
I am not obsessed. You're playing it right now. Am I winning?
Now maybe this is my nostalgia talking here, but Knights of the Old Republic still looks pretty decent 20 years later. Sure, it's not going to set your graphics card on fire with its
raw graphical fidelity powered by NVIDIA RTX
or anything, but if you didn't know for sure, would you guess this came out in 2003? Keep in mind, Neverwinter Nights released just the year prior, on the same engine no less, and this is what dialogue scenes looked like in that.
You were there. You saw the slaughter. The attack caught us unprepared. You are one of only a handful of survivors from the carnage of the Academy.
Again though, look at these side by side and seriously tell me that they only look to be about a year apart. Knights of the Old Republic may have a small set of canned animations to play during dialogue, but the fact remains that it's not common at all to see games from this time not be made by Squeenix and still have models with actual facial expressions and at least an attempt at matching body language. The worst thing I can say about it is the game's blatant reuse of the same heads for multiple NPCs. If they were background filler wandering around, that would be expected, but multiple named and voiced NPCs throughout the game will share the same appearance. Either that or the Kaminoans have been making massive numbers of clones for far longer than anyone believed. On the audio end of things, dude, it's Star Wars. Even the absolute worst the franchise has to offer has amazing sound design, and KOTOR is no exception. I'd really love to show you how well the soundtrack integrates classic John Williams tracks, but you saw what happened when I tried to play even a second of that text crawl. I have, however, been using Jeremy Soul's original compositions in the background this whole time, occasionally interspersed with a few of Lenny Moore's songs from Outkast. If you think you've never heard of Jeremy Soul, yes you have. I'd really love to be smug and act as if I've known that for years and gloat about all the plebes never making the connection like I, a genius, have. But I can't. I am in fact one of those plebes. Before I started making these videos, I honestly didn't pay much attention to who did the music for my favorite games. I knew Nobuo Uematsu, Grant Kirkhope, and Mick Gordon, and I only knew them because of how many other YouTubers I watched would talk about them by name. So if there's one positive for me to take away from all the time spent making silly videos about games, it's that it's given me a much greater appreciation for those responsible for the soundtracks in my games. Soul's original tracks fit in perfectly, and the only way you could get them to sound more Star Wars-y is if John Williams had done it himself. I'm not sure there's a higher kind of praise for a Star Wars soundtrack.
That's high praise!
I'd go into detail about the voice acting next, but I'm gonna save that for the spoilers section just in case anyone watching would like to be surprised by who joins the party. I'll just say this instead. Jennifer Hale, Raphael Sparge, John Seigan, Kevin Michael Richardson, Courtney Taylor, Frank Welker, Grey DeLisle, Tom Kane, Phil Lamar, Cam Clark, Jess Harnell, Darren Norris, Steve Bloom, Sumali Montano, and Greg Berger. You tell me whether or not Knights of the Old Republic has a good cast. Now we come to the story. BioWare are legends for their storytelling prowess. Both before and after KOTOR, they're responsible for some of my favorite writing in games, and Knights of the Old Republic can't quite compare. While KOTOR does possess one of the best twists of its generation, the story around that is fairly standard in hindsight. You have no idea how much it pains me to say that. This, the game that made me obsessed with games that focused on their story. The game without which I would have almost certainly never gone down the road that led me to the likes of Planescape Torment or Disco Elysium. I want to protect Knights of the Old Republic, lie and claim that it's one of BioWare's finest games with no equal. But I can't. I will, however, offer this humble defense. Knights of the Old Republic was the first truly accessible BioWare game. While it still used a D20 rule set, it wasn't bogged down by adhering to specific tabletop rules and could be adjusted to better accommodate video games. It was also the first major BioWare release to feature full voice acting. Yes, all three mainline Baldur's Gate games and Neverwinter Nights had plenty of voice acting to go around, but there were long stretches of unvoiced dialogue that enabled BioWare's writing team to add meatier conversations with greater depth. Voice actors are expensive, even more so when your game is being made on a tight deadline. LucasArts weren't known for their patience.
I'm waiting!
That likely meant trimming the fat as much as possible. What's there is good, but it leaves you wishing you had more to talk about with some characters. This would be where the Star Wars license comes in handy. Had Knights of the Old Republic been its own thing, it almost certainly would have been looked at much more harshly in comparison to what came before from BioWare. However, Star Wars is not the franchise where you'd expect deep, complex moral grays, especially at the time. And for the final point to my argument, this is the game that solidified what would become BioWare's go-to formula. 4 major regions to visit in search of a MacGuffin, a moment halfway through the second act that interrupts your adventure and drives home how dire the stakes are.
You what?
Romanceable companions, a black and white morality system where you are either a saint among saints or a comically over-the-top evil bastard, and the remnants of an ancient empire figuring heavily into the overarching plot. Many of these elements factored into their previous titles, but this is where it all coalesced into BioWare's signature style. Because they would continue to expand upon it in future titles, it causes KOTOR's writing to feel quaint in comparison to, say, Mass Effect. It's not Knights of the Old Republic's fault. It walked so that its siblings could run. Except sadly for Jade Empire. No one ever gives that game a fair shake. That's about as much as I can say without spoilers. So, like always, skip ahead to here if you've somehow managed to avoid KOTOR spoilers all this time and want to keep it that way. It all began years ago when the Mandalorians invaded Republic space. I'm so glad these days I don't have to waste time explaining what the hell a Mandalorian is. Thanks, Mando!
Yeah, what's this in?
Suffice it to say, the Mandalorians were kicking Republic ass across the galaxy, and the Jedi were being their typical selves and dragging their feet when the galaxy needed them the most. Frustrated with the Order's incessant hand-wringing, 2 Jedi by the names of Revan and Malak took matters into their own hands and recruited other like-minded Jedi to join their defense of the Republic. With the addition of Jedi support and Revan's strategic brilliance, the Republic was finally able to turn the tide and drive the Mandalorians back after a climactic showdown at Malachor V. Rather than rest on their laurels, however, Revan and Malak took several ships with them into uncharted space for reasons unknown. When contact was lost, they were presumed dead. Maybe that would have been for the better, as Revan and Malak returned as conquerors. Whatever happened out there in deep space caused the 2 heroes to fall to the dark side and lead a resurgent Sith Empire to take over the entire galaxy. To make things that much worse, many Republic soldiers who had served under the new Sith Lords were all too eager to join their old commanders on the dark side. The fighting has reached such a dire point for the Republic that their sole saving grace has been Bastila's battle meditation, which has granted them a number of surprise victories in recent engagements. Oh, she also took down Revan, but how important could that be? With all that in mind, it's quite easy to see why Karth is in such a rush to find her. The search for Bastila will take you from the fancy upper levels of Taris all the way down to the Undercity, where the Taresian upper crust send their undesirables. Eventually, you learn that Bastila has been captured by the gang the Black Vulkars, who are planning on offering her up as the grand prize for the upcoming swoop race. Seeing as how the Sith are in charge of the planet, you can't exactly go to the authorities about this, so it's time to strike a deal with the Vulkars' rival gang, the Hidden Becks. Their leader agrees to help, but only if you can nab a prototype accelerator the Vulkars stole from them. And in order to get into the Vulkars' base, you'll need the help of one Mission Val.
I told you to leave me alone. So give me some space, Bug-Eye. Your breath smells like Bantha Poodoo.
Mission is my least favorite party member in the game. I get that she's a troubled teen who grew up rough, and she is useful for players who don't pick Scoundrel. I just find her annoying. Catherine Tabor is a fine voice actress who has done good work elsewhere, but the way she plays Mission just sounds so awkward and fake. Like the kind of voice that you'd use if you were making fun of how teenagers talk in a Disney or Nickelodeon sitcom.
I don't have to listen to you, Karth. You ain't my father, though you're sure old enough to be. So keep your lectures inside your withered old head, because I don't need them.
What makes this strange is that this is almost the exact same voice she uses for Penelo in Final Fantasy XII, though there she has a much more natural-sounding performance. When you find her, Mission is too focused on rescuing her Wookiee friend Zalbar from Gamorrean slavers to be willing to help you. Hey, having a Wookiee is always useful. You don't need to twist my arm to get me to go save him, though getting to him won't be easy. In addition to the Gamorreans, you'll have to contend with Rakghouls, the hostile native life of Terrace that can turn you into one of them with a single bite.
A few minutes later.
Ooh, Wookiee life debt. Neat. Zalbar here is a big old teddy bear who doesn't like to talk much about himself. We'll learn a bit more about him later on. For now, he's a good frontline tank with a ton of hit points. His main drawback being that he's too big for conventional armor, meaning that it's not that easy to boost his defense. With Mission and Zalbar reunited, you can finally get into the Vulkar base. Just gotta take out this Rancor they're using as a bouncer. I think this is the only time in the game where there's any benefit to being able to move items into a container. One murderous rampage in the name of the Republic later, and it's time to put your swoop racing chops to the test. Fair warning, you'll want to make sure you only have a good enough run the first time out. No matter how well you do, the Black Vulkars racer will beat your time. If you do too well, then you'll find yourself in an unwinnable situation. Considering that this is the first time you do a swoop race at all in the game, though, this is really only a concern for experienced players who probably already know this little factoid. I just wanted to be safe and mentioned it anyways.
Well, Potita!
After setting the top time once again, it's time for the closing ceremonies. Naturally, the Vulkars' leader, Chester Brejik.
People, hear me! Before I present the so-called champion of the Becks with their prize, there is something you must know. The winning rider cheated!
Is a sore loser and refuses to accept the results because you cheated before he could cheat. With no party members around to help out, this could get bad. Or it would have had Bastila not been waiting for the opportunity to break out on her own.
Save me. Is that what you were trying to accomplish by riding in that swoop race? Well, as far as rescues go, this is a pretty poor example. In case you hadn't noticed, I managed to free myself from that neural restraint collar without your help. In fact, it's more accurate to say that I saved you.
God, I love a woman who hates my very existence. I really need to bring that up with my therapist at some point. I'm gonna go ahead and assume everyone here immediately recognized the voice of Jennifer Hale. Otherwise, half this video would just be me listing all the games and cartoons that she's been in. Bastila is everything you wouldn't expect a Jedi Master to be. She's arrogant, impatient, dismissive of others, and constantly acting as if she needs to prove herself in some way or form. All of which makes perfect sense when you realize that Bastila is actually still a Padawan. In a nice bit of integration with the gameplay, this is reflected in her intelligence and wisdom scores being pretty low for a Jedi, but having a high charisma to allow her to bullshit her way through most situations to hide that inexperience. Oh, and she's hot. Yeah, she may have been my first gaming crush. Again, I may have a concerning attraction to arrogant women. Hottie hotties, if you will. Boo! Having saved Bastila...
In case you hadn't noticed, I managed to free myself from that neural restraint collar without your help.
Having assisted in Bastila's escape, it's time to finally find a way off this rock. Thankfully, an opportunity comes in the form of a Mandalorian merc named Canderous Ordo. He'll be one of our 2 token evil party members for the evening, complete with cool, gravelly voice courtesy of Solidus Snake himself, John Saigon.
I've got a plan to escape Taris, but I can't do it alone. I need someone I know can get the job done to help me. That's where you come in.
You don't need to ally yourself with this person. We should move on while we can.
I ain't talking to you. I'm talking to your friend, aren't I?
This isn't even Saigon's first turn as a major Star Wars video game character, having voiced Dash Rendar in the previously mentioned Shadows of the Empire.
Let's rock.
You suck!
Canderous was my first experience with Mandalorian culture. His detailing of the utterly alien ethos of the Mandalorians made him so fascinating to talk to even as a light side player. Their fascination with what they perceived to be honorable battle went beyond other fictional warrior cultures I was aware of at the time. Most of the time when you have a race of bloodthirsty warriors in fiction, they're obsessed with victory at any cost. Mandalorians, meanwhile, view conflict as the only true way to challenge oneself. Victory or defeat matters little into that. Don't get me wrong, the Mandalorians of this age are absolutely evil motherfuckers.
I have no time or patience for cowards. They deserve to be hunted down and exterminated like vermin. There was no honor in wiping them out like rats. But some of your forces did redeem the Republic in our eyes. Especially later.
But they're a distinctly different kind of evil compared to the Sith. A Mandalorian will kill without a second thought, but it's all built upon their cultural perception of honor and adhering to that. Meanwhile, the Sith merely put up a pretense of any code. The Sith code itself is built upon the hypocrisy of claiming to have freed themselves when they have, in fact, chained themselves to the whims of their base desires, while gleefully enslaving those around them in an endless lust for even more power. But this video isn't about analyzing the psychology behind a fictional religion, so let's get back to the game. Canderous is the top enforcer of the crime lord Davik Kang. Working for Davik has paid well, but it lacks the challenge that Canderous craves. So he offers a deal. You get the codes to make it past the Sith's orbital blockade, and he'll get you inside Davik's stronghold where he keeps his personal ship, the Ebon Hawk. Yay! More morally justified indiscriminate slaughter! With special assistance from our new astromech buddy T3M4. T3 isn't much of a character on his own, but he's a damn useful little droid to have around when you need a computer hacked. Remember though that he's a droid, so those force healings you should be having Bastila doing won't work on him. Remember to stock up on repair kits! With that done, all that's left is to steal a ship belonging to the most dangerous man on Taris. And you know what? We might as well go on another rampage while we're here.
Meanwhile...
You summoned me, Lord Malak.
The search for Bastila is taking too long. We cannot risk her escaping Taris. Destroy the entire planet.
The entire planet, Lord Malak? But there are billions of people on Taris. We'd be slaughtering countless innocent civilians, not to mention our own men still on the surface.
Your predecessor once made the mistake of questioning my orders, Admiral. Surely you are not so foolish as to make the same mistake.
Of course not, my Lord Malak. I will do as you command, but it will take several hours to position our fleet.
Then I suggest you begin immediately. You are dismissed, Admiral.
Yes, Lord Malak.
That's not good. Better hurry to the ship and...
Damn those Sith, they're bombing the whole planet. I knew they'd turn on us sooner or... Oh, look what we got here. Thieves in a hangar. So, you figured you'd just steal my ship for your getaway and leave me high and dry while the Sith turn the planet into dust? Sorry, but that ain't gonna happen.
When it comes to this fight, take my advice. Ignore Davik completely. All you need to do is take the Boba Fett wannabe named Calo Nord down to half health and the cutscene will take care of the rest. You escape Taris just in time as the Sith bombard the planet back to the Stone Age. It's been topped by many other moments since and will in fact be topped by a later twist in this very game, but this scene left me stunned as a child. All that time I'd spent helping out everyone I could. All those lives just snuffed out because Darth Malak got tired of waiting. Malak is voiced by Rafael Ferrer, who, much to my surprise, never did much voice work before or after this. He's clearly having the time of his life as Malak and just seems like such a natural at playing villains that you'd think he would have been in demand after this came out. I truly hope that if this era is ever visited in newer works, they'd bring him back to reprise the role. The man playing Tarkin to Malak's Vader is Admiral Saul Kareth, traitor to the Republic and Karth's former mentor who was responsible for the bombing of Telos, where Karth and his family lived. Which goes a long way toward explaining Karth having a ridiculous level of trust issues. Saul is played by the late Robin Sachs, a man whose voice is so badass that BioWare brought him back to play Zaid Masani in Mass Effect 2 and 3. However, using Zaid clips wouldn't be funny, so instead here's my personal interpretation of what learning under Saul was like for Karth.
Hello, worthless students. I'm your new instructor.
By the skin of your teeth, you escape Malak's clutches and flee to the Jedi Enclave on Dantooine. There, Bastila gives a sitrep to the Jedi Council consisting of Masters Dorak, Jar, Vandar, and Ed Asner. No, seriously, that's Ed Asner as a Jedi Master.
The Force flows through you like no student we have ever seen. But you're willful and headstrong, a dangerous combination.
Does your favorite game from childhood have Carl Fredricksen as a magic space samurai? I didn't think so. Vandar deserves an aside as well, purely based on the fact that he's voiced by Tom Kane doing his damn near perfect impression of Frank Oz as Yoda.
Before we send you to investigate the ruins, you must be trained in the ways of the Jedi, so that you can resist the darkness within yourself, within all of us. Otherwise, you are doomed to fail.
If there is a single voice actor that I associate the most with Star Wars, it's Tom Kane. It's hard to think of a single Star Wars game I played as a kid that didn't feature him as a notable character or as the narrator.
A galaxy divided by war. Peaceful worlds must choose sides or face the threat of invasion.
Then, of course, you have to mention his roles on the Powerpuff Girls as Professor Utonium and him.
Here's your money, him. Your flapjacks are good, but not that good. I'm never eating here again. Come on, girls. Let's go eat at the other restaurant.
Wait, come back! I'll make my flapjacks cheaper!
Truly an extraordinarily talented voice actor who deserves all the love in the world. Unfortunately, Mr. Kane suffered a stroke in 2020 which forced him to retire from voice acting. I realize that there is zero chance that he will ever see this video, but I'd still like to take the time to thank Tom Kane for all of his work and say that hearing his voice in anything I play or watch always puts a big smile on my face. Back at the plot, you and Bastila have been sharing dreams of the deceased Sith Lord Revan. First with his defeat at Bastila's hands, with Malak dishing out an assist like he's friggin' Chris Paul, followed by a vision of Revan and Malak before their fall to the dark side, entering an ancient temple in search of something to assist them against the Mandalorians. Bastila explains both this and her suspicions of your latent Force sensitivity to the Council. Though the Masters are skeptical of a grown adult being able to be properly trained, these are dire circumstances. It's a good thing you possess main character powers and flat out learn how to harness the Force faster than anyone else in history.
And why is that? You were a great help on Terrace, but why would they keep you with us? Don't they have to train you?
It's funny, when I was a kid, I thought of Karth as whiny and annoying. But since gaining the power of critical thinking, I realize he's the only sane one here. What the hell are the Jedi up to? Not too long ago, you were just some rando inexplicably added to the Endar Spire's crew at the last minute on the orders of the Jedi Council. Now you have these latent Force abilities, a Force bond with the Jedi most critical to the war effort against the Sith, and you're able to master your newfound powers at an impossible rate? There is something odd going on here, and I'm going to get to the bottom of...
Why? I could not accomplish this on my own. I need the aid of others, especially one who is strong in the Force. The bond between us made you a natural choice. Besides, the events on Taris prove that the Force wanted to bring us together for this mission. And there is little left to chance when the Force is involved. Is that not enough for you?
Oh, okay. The hot girl said there's nothing to be suspicious about, everyone. It's just the Force. Move along. Nothing to question here. Don't ask why she's quizzing you with basic questions about your background that you should already know. Once you pick your new Jedi class and build your first lightsaber, which you do perfectly on the first try, of course, you're sent out on your final trial, where you must confront the source of the dark side energy emanating from a nearby grove that is causing the local wildlife to become far more aggressive than usual. At the Grove, you find a fallen Jedi named Juhani who refuses to listen to what you have to say. Lost Soul, meet Force Stun. After the ass-kicking of a lifetime, Juhani pleads with you to get it over with and finish her off already. In her eyes, there's no redemption for her after she struck her master down in anger during a training session. Now, you could honor her wishes and end it here and now, or you could be a real fucking Jedi and convince her that she can still make amends. That and Juhani's a DPS machine if you build her right. So yeah, redemption time.
I thank you, Master Jedi. I will return to the Council then. I shall submit myself to their judgment and hope they will forgive me. Again, I thank you. I am sure I will hear great things about you in the future.
Juhani is played by Courtney Taylor, who tends to play much harder-edged or aloof characters like Jack in Mass Effect or Scarlet Lake in Alpha Protocol. Despite the nature of her introduction, Juhani is actually one of the most compassionate and soft-spoken members of your party, and helps demonstrate the vocal range Taylor has. When you get back to the Council, it turns out that this was a test for both you and Juhani. Her master faked the severity of her wounds in order to test Juhani's commitment to the light side and teach her to control her anger. Naturally, the Council told you none of this before sending you out there, and were perfectly fine risking the life of a Padawan in order to see how the new guy fares.
First the Jedi trick you into becoming an enemy, then they welcome you back as a friend. I can't say I approve of their training methods.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Karth. The Jedi Council in the prequels may have been inept and willfully blind until it was too late.
Oh, so it's a council now? It's not just the two of you? What about you, Dogface? Did you know that now it was a council?
But that test was bordering on Sith territory. Now that you're officially a Padawan, the Council sends you and Bastila to investigate the site you saw Revan and Malak enter in your dream visions. There you find remnants of an ancient, galaxy-spanning empire, rather ironically dubbed the Infinite Empire. This rusty old bucket of bolts explains that the seat of the Infinite Empire's power came from a place known as the Star Forge. After a bit of really simple puzzle solving, you make it to the inner chamber and wait! Make sure you save before you open this door. Even with the community patch I used for my primary playthrough, there's a chance you can trigger a bug that keeps the proper cutscene from playing and leaves you unable to make progress. Reloading an old save will fix this issue though, so always make sure you've got a safety save on hand. Inside the inner chamber, you find a map which highlights coordinates to 4 other planets. The desert world of Tatooine, required by federal law to be featured in all Star Wars content, the Wookiee homeworld of Kashyyyk, the ocean planet Manaan, and the heart of the dark side itself, Korriban. Surmising that Revan and Malak must have gone to these planets in search of similar maps in their quest for the Star Forge, you and Bastila take this info to the Council. In their infinite wisdom, they opt to send 2 Padawans, 3 if you save Juhani, and their ragtag bunch of misfits to hunt down this Star Forge and see if it is indeed where the Sith are getting their overwhelming military strength from. From here, you can head to whichever planet you want in any order. Personally, I'd recommend hitting up Tatooine and Kashyyyk first to get your final 2 party members. However, there's no need to worry about picking the wrong planet to start with, as the game has always felt well balanced to me in that regard. Each planet has its own subplot to follow on your way to the corresponding star map. Since I still want people watching this video to play this game for themselves, and because this script is already running long, I'm not going to go beat for beat on everything you do on all 4 worlds. Instead, I'm going to give a quick glimpse of the sub-stories and then offer some brief thoughts on every party member before we make our way to the ultra-mega spoiler. Tatooine. You're forced to cut a deal with the corrupt Zerka Corporation, who have aligned themselves with the Sith Empire, in order to be allowed to leave the city of Anchorhead and search for the star map. And Zerka wants the nearby Tusken Raider clan dealt with. Sure, you could take the violent route, or you could negotiate with the aid of the single most popular character to come out of this game, HK-47.
Extrapolation. It would seem that we are at least worthy of curiosity for the moment. I would much rather this get bloody, Master, but it is your call.
I'm 100% convinced that Dave Filoni is a Knights of the Old Republic fan, because this is the only time prior to The Mandalorian that the Tusken Raiders, back when they were still only known as Sand People, thanks racist for twisting that into a slur by the way, go fuck yourselves, that the Tusken Raiders were ever humanized. I don't know if they still do them, but back when I was a kid, they would publish these fictional engineering guides to the Star Wars universe. One of them included info on the Tusken Raiders and detailed some of their cultural traditions. It made them one of my favorite parts of the Star Wars canon, and I was over the damned moon when we finally got live-action Star Wars presenting them like KOTOR in this book did. Kashyyyk. You run smack dab into Zerka again, this time in the process of enslaving the Wookiee population with the aid of Zalbar's own brother, Chundar. A manipulative, evil little shit, Chundar tricked their father into exiling Zalbar and now sells out his own people in exchange for power over those who remain, conning them into believing that he's protecting them from Czerka. To keep a potential rival from outing him, he takes Zalbar hostage and sends you down to the Shadowlands to deal with a crazed Wookiee attacking his hunters. Down on the forest floor, you'll find your final party member, the Grey Jedi Jolee Bindo.
Don't start fawning just yet. I'm too old for it.
We'll talk more about both him and HK later. Kashyyyk is probably my least favorite planet in the game. I know most people hate Manaan far more, but endlessly repeated Selkath noises are infinitely more palatable to me than the 2 or 3 different Wookiee noises played on repeat the whole way through. There's also just not a whole lot to do. For very justified reasons, none of the Wookiees want you there or trust you in the slightest. However, this also means there's not a great deal to do in terms of side quests or worthwhile exploration, and the vast majority of people who will give you the time of day are Czerka scum. Manaan. Everyone else's most despised section, and my second favorite. Manaan is one big ocean with a single surface port to service off-worlders. The planet's primary inhabitants are these catfish men known as Selkath. You were actually supposed to get one as a party member too, she even appears on the cover. Unfortunately, budget and time constraints forced BioWare to cut her from the roster, and with the hard coding of 9 party members, it's next to impossible to mod her back in. Anyways, the Selkath are the galaxy far, far away's version of the Swiss. They refuse to pick a side in the war and instead make bank off of selling their Kolto to both sides. Kolto is a precious resource found only on Manaan that has unsurpassed healing properties, and is a forerunner to the synthetic substance Bacta that would be used by the time of the movies.
What the? You trying to drown that kid? What are you injecting there? Is this the bloody Dark Ages?
This means that both the Republic and Sith have a vested interest in trying to woo the Selkath to their side, resulting in a miniature Cold War in the midst of the active conflict going on in the rest of the galaxy. The Selkath, however, take their neutrality seriously and crack down on any and all conflicts that arise between the Republic and Sith.
I hate these filthy neutrals, Kif. With enemies, you know where they stand, but with neutrals, who knows? It sickens me.
You'll have to work carefully with the Republic Embassy if you want to find the star map without accidentally lighting this powder keg of a planet. Again, most people despise this section because they find it to be too dialogue heavy and the repeated lines used by the Selkath to be annoying as hell. Personally, I just read the subtitles and skip ahead to the next line when I'm done. In fact, I do this with all the alien dialogue in the game since it all shares this issue. And the Selkath don't have any sharp screams to violate my ears with before I can skip ahead like the Wookiees do. In addition, I enjoy the slower pace and the horror vibe of the major dungeon for Manaan. It's a good way to shift gears after the other worlds. Korriban. 9 times out of 10, the last planet I go to and my personal favorite, especially when playing light side. In order to reach the star map, you'll have to find a way to enroll in the Sith Academy and make it through the classic Sith training method of holding the student under the water until the bubbles stop. You quickly find yourself embroiled in the schemes of the headmaster's apprentice and have to play along as the obedient little student until you can find an opening. This whole premise is extremely fun to play as a genuine lightsider infiltrating the Sith's main training ground, especially when you go here last. That ultra mega spoiler turns this concept from simply amusing to downright hilarious. Subverting the hell out of the Sith Academy while everyone praises you as the clear favorite and a golden example of what it means to be Sith. You can even redeem the Force ghost of one of the original Sith while tomb raiding.
If I could return, oh my master, it has been so long, and I regret so much.
It also expands on concepts surrounding the Sith that had only been present before in books that I was too young to have known about at the time, including the Sith Code. Getting to be sneaky and a goody two-shoes while learning more about the Sith? Sign me up.
Left out of the loop, you know, not being told anything, strung along. It's really starting to irritate me.
Carth is the character you don't really appreciate the first time around. He's untrusting, evasive, and always seems to be on the verge of accusing you of being a Sith spy. Once you do get him to loosen up a bit and explain why he's like this, his initial hostility makes a lot more sense. Raphael Sbarge giving one of the strongest, most emotive performances in a game filled with good voice acting certainly helps too. But it's only on repeat playthroughs that you realize just how on point Carth is with all of his suspicions. Not about you being a Sith spy, but in his belief that he's being left out of the loop on something big.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean? You think I can't take care of myself? I've got street smarts. I know how to get by on my own. In fact, I look out for Zalbar more than he looks out for me, you know? Big Z is a little bit too gullible to make it alone on the mean streets of the lower city.
I'm not sure I have a lot more to say about Mission. You'll either find her endearing or want her to stay on the ship at all times. Especially once she gets to talking about her obviously skeevy brother. So yeah, I tend to leave her on the ship. Zalbar's big character moment comes on Kashyyyk, where you help him to decide whether or not to defy his brother or side with him. This always struck me as an odd choice to give the player. Zalbar was exiled from his clan for attacking his brother with his claws when he learned Chundar was working with Czerka to enslave Wookiees. Using your claws as a weapon is the gravest sin in Wookiee culture, and it caused their father to cast Zalbar out as a Mad Claw before he could explain what had happened. And then, not long after his exile began, Zalbar found himself forced into slavery for a time. Look, the Z-Man is a big softie, sure, but I find it hard to believe that it only takes a bit of time alone with his brother all these years later to be willing to help Chundar retain control of the clan after everything Zalbar went through.
No doubt things will become more clear once we discover the star map's location.
As I said before, Bastila is a Padawan desperately trying to fake it until she makes it. With the pressure of the fate of the galaxy square on her shoulders, she does the best she can to act in the way that she believes is expected of her. Bastila is the Jedi equivalent of someone having only recently graduated college, who is then thrust into the spotlight as the grand hero who will save the Republic from the Sith. This makes it all the more amusing to fluster Bastila by teasing her whenever you get the chance.
I was referring to the bond we share, the one the Jedi Council spoke of. If I was actually interested in you, rest assured I could come up with a much better approach than this. Touched a nerve? No. Getting on my nerves? Most definitely. I suppose this is what you men consider being witty.
Carth's romance arc is cute and all, but it's never as funny as this.
Please try to stay focused. I doubt the Council would approve if they knew we were busy discussing our mutual attraction when we should be saving the galaxy from Malak. Mutual attraction? I never said... It's just an expression. Whatever our feelings... whatever your feelings, you have to try to ignore them. Don't let this complicate things.
Everything that's worth saying about T3 and Canderous has already been said, and neither have anything resembling a character arc either.
I did what was prudent at the time. If I had not done it, the battle would have...
The battle would have been won anyway. I am tired of your excuses, Canderous.
More time would do me good. Time to distance myself from that anger. I think that is why the Council agreed to send me with you. They think, perhaps, that in your company, I will be able to free myself from it.
Conversing more with Juhani reveals exactly why she struggles so mightily with her anger. Having been forced to flee with her parents from their homeworld when the Mandalorians attacked, Juhani grew up isolated in her new home as she was the lone Cathar child on the planet of Taris. So she's also dealing with Malak's whole bombard the planet from orbit shit on top of everything else. Soon, she lost her parents as well and was sold into slavery by a loan shark. Juhani was only able to escape this living hell once Revan and his band of Jedi arrived and freed all the slaves. Of course, that only made things better for a time, and once the Jedi left, everything went back to the way it used to be. Thus, Juhani resolved to escape Taris and become a Jedi herself. Then her master and the Council devised that cruel test to torture the emotionally scarred woman even more. Just keep twisting that knife, universe. I think I could see one more bit of her heart you haven't torn up yet. She's also an interesting landmark in Star Wars history, being the first canonically gay character in the franchise. Granted, it's buried under a mountain of subtext, and the romance you can have with her is barely present and doesn't even slightly affect any attempts to get with Carth. But it's still there, damn it! This would be because this was 2003, and back then, for some reason, the idea of two people of the same sex sharing so much as a single kiss was seen as sickeningly perverse. A family-friendly company like LucasArts couldn't risk being seen as smut peddlers. Padme boinking a guy she first met when he was 8 and insists that she still sees that little boy when she looks at him, though?
And he'll always be that little boy I knew on Tatooine.
Approved for all audiences.
BioWare had to fight LucasArts to keep this much in, and I applaud them for sticking to their guns. They had a specific vision for Juhani, and they did their best to keep what they could intact in the face of hypocritical moralism.
Whoops tautology.
Next up, we have the droid everyone loves, HK-47.
My restraining bolt will be deactivated when you take possession of me. Am I to accompany you now? Shall I kill something for you? Answer. Indeed. I am most eager to engage in some unadulterated violence. At your command, of course, Master.
This delightfully bloodthirsty droid is the source of some of the funniest lines in the whole game.
Explanation. It's just that you have all these squishy parts, Master, and all that water. How the constant sloshing doesn't drive you mad, I have no idea. Statement. Now do you understand the travails of my existence, Master? Surely it does not compare to your existence, but still.
What else am I supposed to say? He's evil C-3PO as an expert assassin who refers to every single one of those filthy organics as meatbag. That's really all there is to HK-47, and we love him for it. Finally, we have Jolee Bindo as portrayed by Kevin Michael Richardson.
Don't coddle me, child. I'm neither a Jedi nor your master. I'm just an old man that's been lost in the woods for far too long. My days of glory are behind me, but perhaps there is something I can do for you. You must have questions.
If you ask me to name off the top of my head who I consider to be the most criminally underappreciated voice actor, well, I definitely have a hard time thinking of anyone that descriptor fits better than Kevin Michael Richardson. It seems almost impossible for a man who has had major roles in so many high-profile films, TV, and games to get so little recognition, yet it seems like so few people I talk to know his name. And when they do, it's for whenever he goes deep with his voice for villains like with Captain Gantu, Saravak, or Trigon.
I am sorry that you feel that way, old man.
Very rarely does his range get recognized.
I cannot be defeated.
Or how he managed the seemingly impossible task of being the first voice actor to differentiate himself from Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Smear free. It's Permaclown. Ooh, tough crowd.
Dude's one of the top voice actors working today, if you ask me. And he played Uncle Oswidge on Dave the Barbarian. Being on that show automatically makes you 10 times more awesome. It's a scientific fact.
Can't you two just pancakes?
Jolee is a Grey Jedi, which is a fancy way of saying ex-Jedi who thinks that the Order is full of shit, but so are the Sith, living off the grid on Kashyyyk, and I love him to death. This cranky old bastard lives to mess with people's heads. He'll happily go on long stories about the old days and pretend to frame it as a lesson for you, but it's just as likely that he's trolling you for his own amusement. When he does get serious, though, Jolee poses interesting questions about things like the Jedi's opposition to Force users falling in love.
Love causes pain, certainly. Inevitably, love is going to lead to as much sorrow and regret as it does joy. I suppose there are perfect, eternal loves out there, but I haven't seen any. And how do you deal with the bad part of love is what determines your character. What determines the dark side's hold over you.
For all of his attempts to avoid being the party's Obi-Wan, he sure does display a ton of wisdom.
There I go, waxing philosophical again. Somebody blast me already. Let's get going before I start talking in riddles, damn it.
Alright, second spoiler warning time. I'm serious here. For a time, this was gaming's equivalent to Fight Club's twist that Tyler Durden could see dead people. So one final chance to back out if you want to experience it yourself first. Either stop the video right now or just skip ahead to here. This is your last warning, I'm serious. After completing 3 planets, you and your party are captured by Saul Karath. Seeing as how he'll likely separate you, Carth, and Bastila from the rest of the party, that means it's up to the B team to make the save. But who to pick?
Is that wise? We need someone inconspicuous for this task, and Wookiees tend to draw a lot of attention, especially from arresting troops. Maybe you should go with someone else.
Damn. Of course I can't pick the Wookiee. Fine. Mission Europe. This section is brief, but a cool divergence from what you've become accustomed to at this point. Depending on who you pick, your starting location will change, and possibly how you'll go about saving the main trio. I actually wish this had gone on a bit longer to give a few more role-playing opportunities as the party member you chose. One jailbreak later, and it's off to the bridge to get the Ebon Hawk freed, and give Carth some much-needed payback with Saul. Saul, however, doesn't go quietly and reveals something to Carth.
Bastila, it is true, isn't it? And you knew. You and the whole damn Jedi Council, you knew the whole time.
Carth, it's not what you think. We had no other choice. Please, you don't understand.
So make me understand.
This isn't the time for answers, though, because Malik's coming.
Right now!
I'll just let the Dark Lord of the Sith take it from here.
What? You mean you don't know? All this time and you still haven't figured it out.
I wonder how long you would have stayed blind to the truth. Surely some of what you once were must have surfaced by now. Even the combined power of the Jedi Council couldn't keep your true identity buried forever, could it?
The Jedi do not believe in killing their prisoners. No one deserves execution, no matter what their crimes.
The Council would not normally accept an adult for training, but this is a special case.
Tatooine. Kashyyyk. Manaan. Korriban. Revan visited each of these worlds searching for clues to reveal the hidden location of the Starforge.
The lure of the dark side is difficult to resist. I fear this quest to find the Starforge could lead you down an all too familiar path.
What greater weapon is there than to turn an enemy to your cause, to use their own knowledge against them?
Suddenly it all makes sense, doesn't it? Why you seem to lack knowledge about the most basic happenings in the galaxy. Why you were added to the Endar Spire's roster at the last minute. Why you took to the Jedi training so quickly. The dreams about Revan's past. The inexplicable force bond between you and Bastila. Revan didn't die when Bastila confronted him. You've been playing as Revan the entire time. 10 out of 10. No notes. Still one of my favorite twists in gaming. Built up and executed to perfection. My little kid jaw was on the floor when I first saw this. Revan's anger over this is also the only way I've ever been able to bring myself to roleplay to a dark side ending. It's just not fun being so cruel and petty for 30 plus hours. Though Malik proves to be no match compared to the power of force stasis and save scumming, the story dictates that this is the time Bastila must sacrifice herself in order for you to escape and find the last star map. The fallout from the reveal that the party has been jetting about the galaxy alongside Darth Revan the entire time is great too. And it's extremely heartwarming if you're continuing to play light side even after all that.
I have felt the presence of the dark side in you, Revan, as it is in all of us. I know the dangers of that path, yet I also know the fallen can be redeemed. I judge you by your actions, and as long as we have been together, I have seen you act as a servant of the light.
Carth is the lone holdout, but he can't deny that you're the only hope the galaxy has left. So, once you collect that last piece of the puzzle, it's off to an uncharted system in the heart of the galaxy. Behold, the Starforge in all its glory. A beautiful contrast to the Death Star. The Starforge doesn't devastate planets itself, no. This is an infinitely replenishing factory churning with the power of the dark side. Creation for destruction's sake. Now, if only this and the planetary section preceding it weren't the worst part of the game. This is a common problem I've found that I have not just with BioWare RPGs, but most RPGs in general. Once you reach the finale, it's just combat, combat, combat for the rest of the game. No more side quests, no more stores, no more persuading or outwitting your foes, just a constant flow of disposable baddies until the final boss. Narratively, it often makes sense, but it tends to aggravate the flaws which were previously only minor nuisances. There are some neat aspects to the planet side bits, like the Rakata having a cool design, or how an empire that once spanned the galaxy has regressed to 2 squabbling tribes on a lone island. At the end, though, it all feels like padding on the way to discovering that Bastila snapped under Malik's torture, and didn't so much turn to the dark side as she leapt into the deep end head first.
I almost wish you could see things as I do now. I wish you could join me and taste true power once again. Sadly, I doubt you're even capable any longer. With the power of the Starforge, Malik will destroy the Republic and conquer the galaxy. And I will be the apprentice at his side, after I prove my worth by killing you.
Oh, boner nut now.
Once again, though, the dark side is no match for the light side of the Force Stasis! You know we need to talk about this, Bastila. Every relationship has its ups and downs, but we can only solve this if we communicate. I'm going up to that Starforge and we're talking this out whether you like it or not. I have nothing nice to say about the Starforge as a level. It's a glorified hallway run filled with too many waves of enemies. I didn't count, but I'm almost sure that there are more enemies on the Starforge than there are in the rest of the game combined. Luckily, this next part makes up for it. Oh no, guys! My girlfriend has the power of the dark side now! What am I going to do? If only I had some sort of I win button as a scoundrel consular build. Oh right.
Soon after.
You love me. There was a time I yearned for, and yet dreaded to hear those words. I loved you too, but I could never face who you were.
Call me what you will. I adore the cheesiness of redeeming Bastila through the power of love. Loved it as a kid, love it now. Even as a child, I found it strange that the prequels portrayed the concept of love as a road to the dark side. Didn't Luke redeem his father with love? Was familial love the only true love then? Needless to say, this was a much-needed counterpoint to Lucas's weird revising of Jedi values for the prequels.
You should go. Malik awaits. This isn't over yet. For any of us. I should stay here, though. If we face Malik, I am afraid his dark presence will overwhelm me. It would not be wise to expose myself to such temptation.
Okay, you stay here, honey. I'll take care of Malik. Did you just imply that his game is stronger than mine? No. Questions for another day. Malik is in sore need of an ass-kicking. Oh god. He's resistant to Force Stasis. Don't you judge me. I'm not replaying half the game just to build Quitch more correctly for this one fight. Besides, it still took multiple tries.
Impossible. I cannot be beaten. I am the Dark Lord of the Sith. Still spouting the wisdom of the Jedi, I see. Maybe there is more truth in their code than I ever believed. I cannot help but wonder, Revan, what would have happened had our positions been reversed? What if fate had decreed I would be captured by the Jedi? Could I have returned to the light as you did? If you had not led me down the dark path in the first place, what destiny would I have found? I suppose you speak the truth. I alone must accept responsibility for my fate. I wanted to be master of the Sith and ruler of the galaxy, but that destiny was not mine, Revan. It might have been yours, perhaps, but never mine. And in the end, as the darkness takes me, I am nothing.
With that, Malik falls, the galaxy is saved, and everyone lived happily ever after. Alternate continuity, shut up. So that was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. Was it everything I remembered it as? No, not really. would I still recommend it to any and all Star Wars fans who have yet to play it? Abso-fucking-lutely! KOTOR may have lost a bit of its luster, but it's still one of the most fun and engaging Star Wars games ever made. Clunky combat and a somewhat bog-standard script are counterbalanced by memorable characters, fun quests, swoop racing, and one of the biggest twists in gaming history. Best of all, it's readily available to experience on modern hardware. The PC release is my preferred version, GOG's specifically, but it does take a bit of fiddling to get things working right. See my struggles with widescreen fixes. However, if that does sound like too much of a pain, you can get a digital copy of the original Xbox release and play it on an Xbox One or Series X/S. There's also the Switch release, but I've heard conflicting things about the quality of that one. So maybe stick to either PC or Xbox. Regardless, if you have even the slightest affinity for Star Wars, whether you're a new fan or old, I truly think you'll find plenty to enjoy with Knights of the Old Republic. It may not be the premier title it once was, but be honest, how often do you get a chance to play a genuine Star Wars RPG? And then we have Aspyr's full-fledged remake on the horizon. It's not happening. Look, they'll keep leading us all along on this as long as they can. The fact is that the project's lost 2 creative directors and no one at Aspyr is willing to be the adult in the room and call it quits. Maybe they can do the same thing Paradox is doing with Bloodlines 2 and hire the Chinese room to shit out a half-assed version. Prove me wrong, Chinese room. Prove me wrong. Hey, I just wanted to cut in and say that it is currently 12:53 a.m. on November 14th. I have been editing for a week straight. I am very exhausted. I wanted to do some kind of filming myself, thanking everyone for watching thing, but I never got around to it, and I am absolutely exhausted right now and just want to get this video done. So I just wanted to say thanks again to everyone who watched so far, and let everybody know I'm probably going to have to take a couple weeks off because this video has just worn me down, and I really don't want to get burnt out making these videos. I hope everyone understands, and I'll see you next time.